and Brendan
Giant tree in my yard and in my drive, blocking my driveway.
I'm telling you, the water oaks, you got to watch them down in Florida. We have got a lot to talk about today, man. Jacques Doucet, WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, is going to join us in the first segment. And then we'll have Doug Dean, Dave Tompkins, Frank Duffy on the Football Friday Roundtable. So smash subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Jacques has a limited amount of time. He's got to get to the Manning Passing Camp, the Manning Passing Academy, there in about 20 minutes. So let's get right to it, folks. We're talking LSU and SEC right back after this.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, good morning. Jacques, saw you on Paul Feinbaum, and he showed you again last night the best of throughout the week. But always love having you on. You are one of the absolute best pros out there, WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge. Frank Duffy's on with us right now, New Orleans native. Look, man, LSU opening up August 31st. It's going to be here 64 days. It's going to be here before we know it, like 1,536 hours if you can't keeping track of it. But it's in Las Vegas, and I'm sure you'll be out there. But what's going on down there in Baton Rouge?
It's just hot and boring, Rob. That's all. That's all this time of year is about, I guess some people are taking their family vacations and whatnot, but, it's never really slow in Baton Rouge. I mean, most of the time when I'm doing a sportscast, I'm asking for extra time, but I always say from the end of LSU baseball to the start of Saints training camp is the one time of year where it's kind of dull. But we'll have SEC media days coming up here in a few weeks, and we've been previewing a lot of high school football in the area, getting out doing a lot of 7-on-7 and stuff like that. Pete Jenkins and Kevin Mawai did their annual lineman camp down at Nicholls State a couple weeks ago. Went down to that. They had close to 800 campers. I think when Pete first started that back in the late 80s, they had less than 50. So that's a pretty amazing thing to see. And so, like you said, today's the Manning Passing Academy. We'll go down there and get some footage from that. Garrett Nussmeier, LSU's quarterback, will be there. And it's kind of rainy and nasty at the moment, but we'll make the 1 hour and 15-minute drive here and see what's happening.
Well, thinking about what's going on with the defensive lineman, Bo Davis, and I've talked about this a lot, but I've followed his career a long time. He was at Texas last year. His defensive line was the difference in 3 or 4 of their games, and there's no question. He's now at LSU. You mentioned Pete Jenkins. That guy is loved and respected everywhere he's been. The years he spent at Auburn, everywhere he's been. I guess as a fan, you're thinking if Pete Jenkins is working with Bo Davis and Bo Davis has what you traditionally have at LSU, I mean, good times are on the way back on that front 7 in Baton Rouge because that's huge news.
Yeah, well, Pete says, I had a chance to interview him at the camp, and Pete says, look, Bo Davis is the best defensive line coach. You can't find a better one. And Kevin Peoples now coaching the edge is really good. Now, the problem is, Rob, is that they don't have a whole lot of personnel. And they don't have a lot of depth. And Pete said that in the interview and said they got to rebuild that room. Certainly they didn't hit on the guys in the portal they wanted to hit on. And certainly there were some guys that did not come back that they were hoping on. I certainly did not think that Mason Smith was going to be a second-round draft pick. And, that goes to show you how smart I am. So he goes and gets picked in the second round. And Mekhi Wingo goes to the NFL. Jordan Jefferson was another guy who had a lot of production for the amount he played. So I don't know how they're going to go about it. They've got Blake Baker as a new defensive coordinator and getting paid a lot of money, a bright young coach to put 11 guys on the field to hopefully make the other guys punt a little bit more than last year. So, but yeah, like Pete says, your offensive line and your defensive line are the lifeblood of your football team. And whether you're Joe Burrow or Jaden Daniels or whoever, if the guys up front don't do their job, you're not going to do much.
It's
Frank, jump in here.
It's protect the quarterback and get the quarterback. And that defensive line is normally one of our strong suits, and it's our Achilles heel. Just from the depth that, like Jacques says, the depth is just not there this year. But I will say, I think we've got the best guys working on it. The upgrades all across the defensive coaching side of the ball were all improvements. Now, we paid to do it. We got a pretty big price tag on them. But Pete Jenkins, going back to my days at LSU in the early 80s when I was on campus, Pete Jenkins is LSU the defensive line excellence. And they brought him in to try and see if he could fix it with bubble gum and barbed wire and masking tape last year. But we just got to rebuild the room. We should not have problems being able to bring defensive talent to LSU. You got to give them a year or two, like with anything, to rebuild it. Yeah. But we all know, had we had any semblance of an LSU defense last year with the offense that we had, which basically was wasted, it would have been a different story come Atlanta.
Yeah, Jacques, talk about that. That's what's scary. 10 wins last year for arguably the worst defense in LSU school history.
Well, they lost 3 games, and I would say 2 of the 3 losses you would squarely put on the defense. I mean,
Ole Miss, definitely.
Ole Miss, you score 49 points and you lose. I mean, on the road in Oxford. And then the Alabama game, they were just – Milroe was playing street ball, just getting the ball in the shotgun and just running all night long, and no adjustments there. The season opener against Florida State, LSU was right there, and then the fourth quarter just spun out of control. But, you look at those – your 2 SEC losses were because of your defense. And so, selfishly, in late December – I don't mind going to Orlando or going to Tampa or going anywhere to Florida to cover a bowl game. That's not too bad in my book. Yeah. But these bowl games are becoming less and less attended. People are just going to say, you know what, I'm going to save my money for if LSU baseball goes to Omaha or if LSU season opener in Vegas. I'm not going to spend money to go to Florida to watch this exhibition game. LSU, to their credit, has had all their guys play. They've barely had any opt-outs in these 2 games with Brian Kelly. But I was always a fan of bowl games. I was always a fan of, okay, you're number 12 in the country. You can win your bowl game big. You can finish in the top 10. That's big, win them for the offseason. But I don't know. I don't know if it's just product of the times. And now the 12-team playoff where people are just kind of like, why should I care? So if you don't make the 12, good.
I was going to say, and the Tiger fans that went down for the bowl game really also went down for the Saints game, which was the very next day. So it was a daily double. That's why we went, right? Yeah, it was embarrassing how poorly that was attended in January.
Yeah, the number they put in the box score is not reality. Mm-hmm. The 35, 40, whatever thousand they put in there, there's a lot of, make-believe people in the stands.
That's right. The Convention and Visitors Bureau taking a lot of people out for nice steak dinners. Doug Dean jumping here with Jacques Doucet. Jacques, I got to tell you, thank you so much for joining us. And I know you work your tail off, but Doug and I, we all get excited. I want you on as often as you can be, but you really, really are a professional, and we really appreciate it.
Well, no problem at all. If I wasn't doing this, I don't know what I'd do. This is if I had to go to a real job, so to speak, and say I got 8-9 hours to do insurance or work on a roof or dig a ditch, or I don't know what I would do then.
And it's a little too early for Phil's Oyster Bar, but it's getting close.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned Phil's Oyster Bar. It's somebody. Just long story short, I had a chance to meet Kid Rock at a concert here locally not too long ago, and they tell me that Kid Rock comes to Baton Rouge all the time and goes to Phil's Oyster Bar. So that back room is famous.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I hung out there with Dan Bornay the last time I was in town. Great guy.
Oh, Dan Boy. Tigers penalized 5 yards. Illegal procedure. Dan Bornay, Tiger Stadium.
Doug, jump in here. This is great.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. You know the thing, Rob.
Wow, that was great last night. That's better than Andy Griffith's show.
This sideline sponsored by Mental Health in Political Debates.
Yes.
We won't go there.
It's something when two guys running for president are arguing over their handicap.
And both lying.
Listen, hey, Rob and Frank, Jacques, if I'm saying that right, bear with my accent in Birmingham, Alabama, but there are some people you meet that by virtue of their name, you don't need to ask them what state they're from.
That's right.
You do great work, Jacques, and Frank will tell you that I have vowed, if I'm ever expelled, which is always possible in my case, expelled from the Auburn family, amiably, I hope, then I will be traveling to Baton Rouge. I would happily join the LSU faithful.
You and your liver will fit in well.
Yeah, well, Catholic. Doug, I like whiskey. I mean, it's a good start.
That is a good start.
Well, Doug, the casual fan who may not be paying attention is going to look at the schedule and see LSU and Auburn aren't playing this year, which is going to be very strange.
Well, Frank and I have been the lamentations and weeping and gnashing of teeth continues. I will say LSU has been a problem for Auburn in recent years with a few notable exceptions. In a 2019 game that we had no business winning that game. Bo Nix won it single-handedly, just running around with broken plays. But then Frank, Pete Jenkins, I mean, you pull him out of a nursing home last year in time, if I've got my chronology right, in time to cause Auburn a lot of problems and other teams. And if he had just a few more players to work with, LSU is probably playing, or at least in the SEC championship game, they're playing Georgia. I think Alabama showed that Georgia was beatable late season. So one of those things. You picked the worst timing. You'll take the Heisman, the worst timing to have a generational quarterback talent.
Like they said in World War II, when you had wonderful infantry and you didn't have air cover or tank brigade with them, you wasted fine infantry. We wasted a fine offense last year. Statistically, as good as the Joe Burrow year.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. The very similar that both of them made a big improvement from year one to year two. But, I mean, you talk to people at LSU and they were like, well, Burrow was like this. And then Jaden was like a rocket ship, like the improvement he made from year one to year two, and then ends up being the number 2 pick in the NFL draft. Doug Williams, Grambling legend, and obviously first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl and be the MVP and all that. He was doing his camp here, a free camp at Memorial Stadium down the street, and he's part of the I'm about to say Redskins, Washington Commanders staff, and he says that Jaden has come in with no ego, no diva to him, and just working and getting the job done. And it's funny, he beat out Bo Nix as one of the Heisman Trophy finalists. You mentioned that 2021 game. I guess that was the highlight of the Brian Harsin era. Was that win that Rob is, he's got to twirl up his record.
I don't like baked potatoes anymore, Jacques.
It probably prolonged the Harsin era because that game and you're right, Jacques.
100% it did.
Sitting up in Tiger Stadium, that 4th down play that Bo Nix did, he literally put Auburn on his back, and that probably saved Harsin. I mean, it would have been an ugly Monday had they not won that game.
Jacques, you get a mulligan on this show or two. And you had no way of knowing, but my contract with this show, which is compensation, needs reviewing again, Rob.
You got a contract?
Yeah, but it prohibits invoking the name of the potato head who coached 2 years at Auburn. So that will be the last.
Nothing.
I tell you what, you were upset that he didn't win enough games. I was upset his first SEC media days. He comes in, so like each room you get the coach for 10 minutes. He took 3 questions. He ate up the entire time. I have never seen a coach that's the ability to filibuster and just talk. I had my hand up trying to get I was like, well, they're never going to call on me. This guy's eating up the whole time talking about jet skiing and whatever else. But that was doomed from the get-go, wasn't it?
I'm going to break my own rules. And I heard this from someone who would know. They were in the room. But when he gets to Auburn and they're early on, you know how we fans are. Rob, our guest a week ago, Tyler
Siskey. Yeah.
Just really brought a lot of IQ to the show. But he talked about name a single fan base that is really unhappy with the presser, the announcement of their new head coach. Auburn fans probably were with Gene Chizik, the 3-19 record, whatever it was from Iowa State. But so we wanted to believe that Harsin would be our modern day Pat Dye. What a joke that was. But this insider told me when he first gets there, he said, how do you sell Auburn? What do you sell? What's the draw? And the coach kept repeatedly saying, and people in the SEC know this, you sell Auburn to recruits by getting them on campus. I can't articulate what that means. I think LSU's got a lot of the same thing. You get them here, and Auburn, there's something magical about it that just you have to experience it. And it's not for every recruit. That's why Auburn will probably never land a number one signing class, but they can land top 5 and appear to be headed for that maybe. So Harsin just never got it culturally. And then Frank and I were sitting there. No, it wasn't Frank and I. It was my son-in-law and his friend from Nashville. The Iron Bowl 2021, unpardonable sin, Frank, Rob, Jacques. You get Alabama to overtime, and you've got a gimpy quarterback who's not very good to begin with, and you get an overtime, and you've got one shot to call a 2-point conversion, and he kicks the ball. Are you kidding me? And he was the same guy that wanted all this credit for being a genius in the 2007 Fiesta Bowl with those 3 amazing calls. Well, we now know that it was not very likely Brian Harsin calling those. It was the head football coach. But you have got fans would forgive. You agreed that fans would forgive going for that 2 under the circumstances against Alabama. And if you come up short, they at least give you points for guts.
I was in that corner of Tiger Stadium, and let me tell you, win, lose, or draw, it felt great going for that win. I mean, that was incredible. Yeah,
exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, and Jacques, I know you've got to get going, but man, this is what we love about it. It's the 24/7. It never goes away. Thinking about this, these games and everything like that. We
wish that 4th and 31 would go away.
Oh, man, my therapist and I've been on the couch a lot. Give us some parting comments. I'll see you out at Media Days. We're going to be staying at the Omni downtown. That's going to be crazy. Let me ask you this. You're a media guy, 23 years, twice Louisiana Sportscaster of the Year. Is Texas, is this a dumb question? Is Texas going to try to suck all the oxygen out of the room and make it all about Texas when we get out there? Because I think they better learn something real fast. They owe y'all a trip to the locker room in Baton Rouge. That's all I can say.
Yeah. I've only been there twice. I covered a baseball series there. LSU got swept. That was towards the end of Maneri's run. And then I went to the football game when 19. LSU 2019 hit the 3rd and 17 to win. I remember reading a newspaper article, and some things just don't need to be said out loud. They're understood. And so the big thing about that game in 19 was that Tom Herman had been a candidate for the LSU job, and obviously he kind of played LSU, went to Texas, and LSU hired Ed Ogeron. I just remember the Texas A&M AD saying, well, we could have hired Ed Ogeron for a bag of crawfish or something like that. He would have walked backwards here to, and it's always this kind of, holier than thou. I mean, I haven't had a ton of interaction, but just what you hear over and over again is arrogance. These people are so arrogant, and I just hear some people talking about Austin like it's going to Cancun or something. Oh, Austin! oh my God! Greatest place, and it's a nice place, got a lot of great music and everything, but I think it's a little overstated. But I mean, it's interesting that the first year there in the league, we're going to Dallas for the first time for SEC Media Days. So, them in Texas now, they're going to have to play each other. They've been avoiding that for years. I know people have tried to pair them up in bowls, and they said, no, it's too nasty. And then, geez, I mean, I know we always talk about, we criticize some people, and then they say to you, well, if you had the opportunity, you do the same thing. I said, okay, well, maybe so, but I don't know. If I'm Jim Schwarzenegger, I don't know how in the world that I would win a national championship and not even be at the parade and be the head coach of Texas. That's crazy. Wild.
Well, I know for football, Rob, when they come to Baton Rouge, after the treatment we got in Austin, they better bring all the air-conditioned units they want on their own, because there will be none in the locker room. And let me tell you, as high as our band was trying to watch that game, their band's going to be somewhere around Port Allen.
Hey, Jacques, I know, Jacques, I got to keep you on schedule so you'll come back. But look, man, tell people how they can follow you. You did a documentary, guys. I don't know if y'all have seen it, about Cecil the Diesel Collins. He did a documentary back in October 15th. It was released. But you do a lot of great work. You are a
love your work, Jacques. Love it.
Yeah.
True grit journalist. And let them know how they can follow you. And let's do this again next week if you can.
I appreciate it. Yeah, my name right there, Jacques Doucet on Twitter. WAFB is our television station, our website. YouTube, there's a lot of stuff there as well. And I'd love to be on anytime. Sorry, I'm a little got to get out the door this morning, but anytime you guys want to chat, it's a good deal.
And don't let it be lost that his station's number is number 9. I'm just letting you know that goes in line with excellence at LSU.
And the Saints, right? We love
That's right. That's right, baby.
Hey, Jacques, eat local, watch local. That's what I say.
There you go.
That's right. Take care. Have a great time at the Academy.
Okay, thanks, guys. Good talking to you.
See you,
You bet, man.
Hey, Rob and Frank.
Did
I walk on you, Rob? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
Well,
in the audience,
he was talking. And it's hot off the press, and you have to be an Auburn person to get it. But I'll share a little of my not very sought after contrarian forecast. I'm not going to walk through all the. I focused on the teams that are most likely to contend or have a realistic chance to contend. But what I think will be interesting to any of your listeners, and I'll throw this radical possibility out there that I think is going to come to pass. And if people will disagree, but I rarely pick chalk. You know, the top 2 favored teams are going to, often that will happen, but I think there's so many variables this year, the lack of an East and West division, adding Texas and Oklahoma. But I think you're going to see not only not a single undefeated SEC team, but not a single one-loss SEC team. I would guess Georgia. Hey, Dave, Georgia probably, and you got to throw Alabama in there. I don't know about Texas is going to have to prove it to me, but I think Georgia has 2 regular season losses, and one of those is going to be the season opener. The late, great Dabo Swinney rises up and shows that they still have a pulse. And that one, I feel the shakiest about that pick because Georgia's loaded. But here's what I think is going to come to pass. Georgia is selected. Remember, it's not the East and West champion. That's gone bye-bye. But Georgia is selected to play in the SEC championship game with 2 losses. And then there's a debate between the Tennessee Vols and Texas Longhorns, both with 2 losses. Texas is selected to play, and Tennessee is the beneficiary of that. Follow me on this. Texas gets drilled by Georgia in the Benz, and because of the third loss, Texas gets to sit home. Oklahoma is the 3rd or 4th team selected at the playoff. And so this probably will happen year in, year out, and it's going to fuel debate. Why do we even need, who would want the SEC championship game, you guys?
If you're on the edge, you're exactly right.
If you're already in, it hurts you to play in that,
Correct.
Especially if you're not Georgia.
Yeah.
Well,
if you're the left team.
Think of 2011. Think of 2011 and when Alabama lost to LSU and Bryant-Denny, and Frank knows really well, and then did not play in the SEC championship, and then beat LSU in the rematch. It'll be even more dramatic now, where if you get to the SEC championship and get that 3rd loss, and then there's someone who doesn't get to the championship, then steps over them to go to the playoff. I mean, that's a real show.
And Doug said, it's November that they remember. Well, they sure as hell remember December, because if you just lost the day before, you're in deep trouble.
Well, let me throw something. We're going to pull up something here in a minute. It's called the Blue Chip Index, the BCI. I refer to that all the time, but it's going to be up here in a few minutes. But it's an index of 4- and 5-star players that you sign in every 4-year recruiting cycle. Here it is. Now, these are 16 teams. This is put out by 24/7 and Sports and CBS Sports. You got Ohio State at a 90% number. Alabama right there at 88. And that's after 31 players, 2 high school and 29 left through the portal or were processed out or whatever. Georgia third at 80. Texas fourth at 79. Oregon at 76. Oklahoma at 72. Texas A&M is fourth at 79. Yeah. And Texas there at 72%. And let's talk about that first group right there, guys. Wow. What y'all can draw from that. And basically, if you're not in this, which is 50% or more of your roster is 4- and 5-star players, you're not going to win the national championship. Since they started this index, no team with less than 50% has done it. Now, I'm going to get to a couple of teams that are going to come to mind for y'all that are not on there, that are getting a lot of attention. But I'll start with Doug, Frank, Dave. Dave, Frank, yeah. Doug. No, Doug. Yeah, just go ahead, start with it.
Look, I'll just prime the pump. I think there's a sense in which, as we build the brand, each program, Georgia and Alabama and a couple others are trying to win the whole damn thing every year. That's where they're at, and kudos to them. And that's where the rest of us are chasing. But there's a sense in which when you're building a brand, trying to keep NIL flush with cash, keep season tickets. And I've talked to an insider in Auburn Athletics the other day, and kind of to my surprise, he said demand for season tickets is higher than it's ever been. I would have thought it took a hit. They're reconfiguring how it's all about premium seating. Same thing I believe in Tuscaloosa, Dave. That shift some of the regular seating. The demand is for that high dollar premium seating. Back to my point, I think you'll see teams that don't win the national championship. But Rob, if they are good enough to make the 12-team playoff, then this blue chip index, it's still critically important. But your fans can live with making the 12-team playoff. You recruit well, live to fight another day. So I think what you see is just a slight decline in the importance of that correlation with blue chip. You can't be 30th in the BCI, but if you're in the top 5 or 10, you got a shot.
All right, let me add this before we go to Frank, and because I didn't want to interrupt you because that was great stuff. All right, the demand for premium seating. Auburn has a scholarship section, several of them, the Broadway Club and the Heisman, the one called the Nelson Club. And I sit up there with friends sometimes. And there were 2 seats there were 71 seats that became available this year. People die, they just can't go anymore. They can't walk or whatever, but they don't go. The last 2 of those 71 seats went for $331,000 in cumulative giving. Okay. So, and that's what I love about this. And Doug, you're so good, and Dave and Frank, all of y'all. But the demand, it's just like Tony Barnhart says, not even the adults can screw it up. David Whitley of the Gainesville Sun, it's pretty much idiot proof. Let's just keep it going.
The product is fine, as David said.
It is. It's incredible.
Yep. Well, the 4 things that come to me rapid fire from that list, Ohio State is very fortunate that they've got the Big Ten because their fan base would be howling with as much talent as that they have without as much hardware. Number 2, Alabama replaces talented players like a shark replaces teeth. There's just another row that comes up and comes up and comes up.
And they are on a heater right now in recruiting Alabama. Yes.
Look, you got to give it to him. I thought there was going to be a mass exit, and there was a lot of people that defected, but he's done a great job of tamping that down. Third, death, taxes, and Kirby. Georgia is one of the most consistent programs since Kirby Smart got there, and I don't see that changing for a long time. And fourth, and I don't want to pile on them when they're down because, damn, they've had a hard week, but nobody underachieves like College Station. With the talent that they've had to have the absolute fart in church sorts of results that they've had for the last X amount of seasons is ridiculous. That's why Jimbo obviously got shown the door. But let me tell you, there's a lot more than what just Jimbo. The functional obsolescence of that program is staggering with the amount of money they can buy recruits at. And yes, I said it because I can say it now because it's all official. Those are the four things that I got.
Yeah, but you know what? Before Dave goes, calling it now. The Aggies are still going to get Texas on November 30th.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. They're waiting behind the woodshed with a 2x4. And when they come, by the way, they're now replaced the LSU Nick Saban grudge. They now have the new coach, other fan base grudge in this league.
Dave Tompkins from the Low Country in South Carolina.
Yes, in Charleston today. And I've been so heads down on work. I've not been keeping up with sports like I normally do. So a little caveat if I
you're excused.
throw anything out there that this guy's ignorant. And then first I'll do a golf analogy. I think last weekend was really important. The first weekend after the U.S. Open, in my personal opinion. The LIV tournament that took place in Nashville was a more entertaining product last weekend than the Hartford Open. And Hartford is a signature event, 20 million. But with the exception of Scotty Scheffler and Tom Kim, there were a bunch of nobodies on the leaderboard in the PGA Tour event. And then you flip over to the CW and watch LIV, and I mean it's star-studded. And Bryson DeChambeau's in the middle, Tyrrell Hatton. I mean, all people, and then you start listening to the telecast and all the metrics are throwing at you and stuff. And you're like, hey, this is a more entertaining product, and that's really important because that's the PGA Tour right now is acting like the NCAA has acted for many years, and they're. Except for the four championships, the normal PGA Tour schedule is becoming less and less entertaining.
No doubt. And
they're losing sponsorships, and all these bad things are happening because the PGA Tour is acting like Nero, fiddling while Rome burns. And so
money talks and Bushwood walks.
Exactly. And so move that over to, where we are now. And you say, oh, look at that, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, the rich just keep getting richer. And all the stuff, the way the college football is going, the rich are just going to get richer. It's going to turn into the NFL. I say that can be prevented. But we have to acknowledge first that, when you look at a college athletic program, college football, and then college basketball and increasingly women's college basketball during March Madness, is relevant. It's only relevant during March Madness as an entertainment product. College basketball, college football is relevant entertainment for the entire season, and keep it that way and acknowledge it and just say, okay, so long as there's some sort of waterfall with all the monetization for college football programs, and particularly the rich get richer, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Georgias, the Oregons, as long as there's some sort of waterfall that makes it down to the women's lacrosse team. That's good. You're supporting athletics. You're supporting the university, but just don't rely on the NCAA to govern it. Rely upon the good, conference, presidents like we have with the SEC, and I think probably maybe exists with the Big Ten and with other conferences. And rely on good athletic directors and college presidents, and you can make what's going on better. But acknowledge first that college football is an entertainment product more than what the NCAA used to talk about college athletes and all that stuff. It's an entertainment product.
Man, y'all are fond of those waterfalls in Tuscaloosa. Yeah, man, y'all like them waterfalls.
But let me say something.
Whatever the recruits want.
Yes.
But a couple of real quick. Let's bring up the second half of that blue chip index. But before we do it, remember last week I said at least in one of the three games, if it goes to a 3-game Men's College World Series final, we're going to crack 3 million. We got 2.24 million in the game on Saturday, 2.97 million Sunday, and 3.34 million with a peak of 4 million viewers during the game. So I owe some steamer packs of crystals. All right, let's look at the other half. LSU at 70%. Notre Dame at 67.
Not happening.
Clemson at 64. Florida, the Gators at 63.
4 losses.
Miami at 61 for the Hurricanes. I just don't see it. Penn State at 61. Southern Cal at 59. And then Michigan at 56. And Auburn pulling up the rear Look, and be relative. As bad as things have been at Auburn, the worst 3-year stretch of football since 1948, 49, and 50, when they lost to Wofford in 1950 and went 0-10, brought in Shug Jordan the next year, and then had a great 25-year run. That's the blue chip index. So there's 16 schools technically that qualify, that could win. No team has ever won the national championship not being on the blue chip index. So I'll start with Doug.
you guys have to love that, because when you're talking about 18 divided into 12, every team that's up there, including the bullet points of Michigan and Auburn, I mean, everybody's in play on this thing.
Yeah. The other thing you got to adjust, math is a many splintered thing and can be misleading, but
Yes.
You've got to break these teams down and tell me which ones are projected to have elite, experienced quarterback, the most important position on the field. And Georgia, you got to like a lot, probably Ohio State and a handful of others. But the teams on this list that are breaking in a new quarterback, take them off the list. You watch what I'm saying.
And again, back to the entertainment point, and now going to another analogy, baseball, Major League Baseball. If you eliminate the home market viewership, and so you eliminate the New York market and you eliminate the Los Angeles market, I would bet half my net worth that a World Series that has either the Dodgers or the Yankees in it will have higher ratings across the United States, and taking the home markets out, than a World Series that doesn't. And the same is true with Ohio State. The same is true with Alabama. The same is true with Georgia, et cetera. When those power teams are playing or are in the playoff and advancing the playoffs, you're going to have higher viewership. And I mean, it's just, and I think that's just acknowledging that, Major League Baseball is an entertainment product. Whether you love the Yankees or you hate them, you're going to watch them if they're in the World Series.
Dave, you said you would bet half your net. Isn't $20 million too big a bet for a guy like you?
I wish.
Hey, I'll throw something at y'all. This is what you look at in college football right now. The interest. What makes college football? I go back to when Pat Dye took the job January 2nd, 1981, reading an article by Billy Mitchell, the sports editor of the Decatur Daily. And I was actually over at Joe Wheeler Refuge bird watching that morning, the day after Auburn had lost on a last-second play, 80-79 in Oxford at the Tad Pad. But he said, I was in North Carolina, 6 years at East Carolina. They're talking about the four corners all year long. I go out to Wyoming. Hell, all they talk about is the daggum rodeo. Get down here to Alabama, they talking football every day. And I mean, I love that. And I've been texting with Pat Dye Jr. He's going to hopefully come on in the next week or two. Try to get him on a Friday with us if y'all would like. He's a sports agent, sports trust advisors over in Buckhead. He said a lot of mornings when he pulls up to work, who pulls up in a car right next to him? Francis Tarkington. How cool is that?
Great.
And I love how Pat Dye, he called him Patrick Fane Dye. And Coach Dye would always call him Francis Tarkington because they were close. And did you know Coach Dye used to sell watermelons with his brothers Nat and Wayne over in Blythe, Georgia? They had a saying, watermelon, red to the Rhine. If you're going to buy one of mine. Hell, I'll take 10. Somebody take over. I'm going crazy.
Rob, let me throw in some more red meat out there. That's the political season term. Four score and 7 years.
Riveting debate last night.
You know the thing. I don't know what.
Wow.
I think CNN bluffed the Donald, and Donald called their bluff. But so I probably should not. I would not be wise to visit the great college town of Oxford for a little while. But I'm contrarian, and Ole Miss is going to be such a media dark horse darling. And Lane Kiffin and that program earned it. Yeah, and I love Ole Miss. I think it's a fun program, and they've been winning big lately. Magnolia State, baby.
Yes.
And so I've got Ole Miss not even making the SEC championship or the playoff game, 8-4 regular season. And before Yancey gets mad at me, it also wouldn't shock me if the chalk, I believe, is 2 losses regular season. And I got everybody with 2 losses minimum regular season. Yeah. And I think Bama fans are going to have to adapt to the fact that a 2-loss regular season is probably like a 1 or no loss season.
They should be happy with that.
I would love 10-2. I would absolutely love 10-2.
And you're right where you want to be. You're in the playoff.
Yeah.
But
10-2, we don't go to the SEC championship. We get to rest, not get anybody hurt, and we go to the playoff. We go to the playoff as a 5 seed. Give me that.
There you go. The only downside is you probably have to play 1 extra game, so you get to play 17 games to win all the Tostitos. So the losses I've got for Ole Miss, and some of these are shockers. At South Carolina, most every year, the Gamecocks are not very good. They'll have 4 or 5 losses, but there's somebody they slip up on and beat. That's at South Carolina. To Oklahoma, that's a hell of a defense Venables has got. But I will say, in relation to the Sooners coming to Jordan-Hare September 28th, guess who is not calling the offense this year for Oklahoma? Jeff Levy. He's in start, and so they moved a staffer up, and that sometimes goes like the Nosminger did in 2003. And what could possibly go wrong? They've got Petrino's playbook. All they have to do is look at the playbook. What could possibly go wrong? So at South Carolina, to Oklahoma, to Georgia, no shame in that. I think most Ole Miss fans probably look at that and say, we're that's a loss. If we pull the shocker, great. And then here's the surprise: at Florida. Lane. So the problem with Lane, he's unlucky. He finally gets Nick Saban off his schedule, but he picked the wrong year to do it because they put Georgia, Oklahoma, and LSU in.
All right. Let me say something about one of our viewers. I like this from Dr. David Arnoff in Panama City. Gene Chiswick from Clearwater High School down in Clearwater, Florida. Father was a principal at rival large high school. Not many people know this. Largo. Okay. A couple of days before his father passed away at the hospital in Tampa, he called Gene Chiswick, his son, down there, and they were in there before he passed away. He had never told him this. He was awarded the Silver Star for combat valor at Sugarloaf Hill at Iwo Jima. 148 Marines went to the top of that hill to take out a Japanese machine gun nest. 12 came down alive. His father was one of them. Wow. I'll tell you, there's these stories behind these coaches. Dave, I get chills thinking about it. My brother-in-law is your age, 26 years in the Marine Corps, 7 combat tours. Last year after the Florida-Tennessee game, we're in his orange and white man cave. And I'm thinking, he's going to be all upset and everything. And I see this picture with a bayonet scabbard and a Kevlar helmet. And there's a picture of him kneeling forward, holding his M16, covered in filth and dirt and ripped to shreds. I said, where was that taken? Basic training. He said, Fallujah, 60 hours into combat. We just cleared our 9th house. And I told one of my guys, he was a warrant officer and a gunny sergeant. He said, take a picture of me because I want everybody to remember me because, we got a lot more to do. Yeah. The best of the best. And Dr. Arnoff, you are good to point that out. Dr. Arnoff is unbelievable. This guy's down in Panama City sending us some incredible guests. By the way, y'all, I want to get Woody Page on this show. The writer. He's one of Buddy Martin's best friends. I got to be on the show Wednesday night with him. He's from Memphis, and he was Elvis Presley's first fan. I didn't know he grew up downtown Memphis where St. Jude was built. But Woody Page went to Tennessee. We know that, but that was really cool. And then Tony Barnhart joined, and I just watched. That was pretty cool. But I got to tell you, this is one of the best shows we've ever had. And everybody here gets an apple and some sour sticks, some Swizzlers for their Wi-Fi being absolutely perfect. Now the power is going to go out, but I just wanted to say that. Take over.
Well, I like Doug's list. I thought it was a very interesting list, Doug. And I did, when I saw that, I saw you were not betting the chalk. Because, look, the chic pick is Ole Miss. And let me tell you something. They're going to be the darling of media days.
And I'd love it if they pull it off. That'd be fun.
Look. When Nick Saban walked into the room, he was the rock star. I got to tell you, it's Lane Kiffin now. When he walks into the room, that's when there's going to be a hush over the room. So you got the stage, boys. What are you going to do with it? And you're right, man. Florida's got look. Florida could win. I saw one report where somebody predicted them to go 2-10. They could go 2-10 or 10-2. I got no idea, but I know one thing: they're dangerous enough to beat Ole Miss. They're dangerous enough to beat us. This whole year is going to be absolutely fascinating, and having the 12 spots, I think you guys are right. Get to 10 wins. But what did H. Brown say to Black Brown? Any means necessary. You get to 10 wins. That's what you need to do. If you get in, and look, I'll take my chances in Atlanta because look, that still means something. But you know what? If I'm sitting on the sideline and I'm 9-3 and I got a really good shot and I've had some sexy wins, hey, y'all can go have fun in Atlanta. I'll sit here and wait because to Doug's point, I think there is a good chance that the best we get out of the SEC is 11-2. I think that's very possible.
The two factors I didn't mention, but I will. If I've already pissed off Ole Miss Nation, I might as well double down. And let me be clear, I like Lane Kiffin. I think he's now, as you said, arguably the only coach that really brings the heat and brings the fun and the controversy. And you need some of that.
Kirby's a little boring
for excitement. I still absolutely love Lane Kiffin was it a summer ago or 2 summers at SEC Media? He says the NCAA has finally legalized cheating.
Yeah.
But here's the 2 factors that would concern me with this Ole Miss being the darling to have a 1 or 2 loss regular season. They've got the horses to do it. It's this DNA. Lane himself and arguably the Ole Miss program, because you're trying to grow and reach the next step, just don't have it in their DNA to handle the gauntlet of 12 regular season games in this league with the target on your chest. And so they get to experience that. It will help them. If they pull it off, oh my gosh, all of a sudden they're in the conversation every year. The second one is the portal. You can call Lane the portal king. The problem with the portal is you're gambling on kids. They'll have the measurables and the metrics, and they perform well, but you're throwing players that have never been there, don't know the locker room, onto a team, and it's a little bit of a crapshoot how that's going to play out with being unselfish, doing your job, not just playing to make, to look good on TV. Wide receiver getting pissed off if he doesn't get enough touches, and
especially
those things
on the offensive line.
So there's an underbelly to winning at the portal that people don't talk about much.
Dave, I want to throw this at you.
Every sport needs a Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin is tremendous for us. Whether he goes 7-5 and people, that's entertaining. He goes 12-0, that's entertaining. I mean, we need a Lane Kiffin just like the NFL needed Al Davis, just like college basketball needed Jerry Tarkanian. I mean, we need those people that you love to hate, and entertaining for entertainment's sake.
Dave, let me throw this at you. We all, like we needed Mike Leach, and he and Lane Kiffin were good friends. Mike Leach had so many great quotes and he was great for college football. And those years he was out of football, not long, as a talk show host, he was phenomenal. And I'll throw this at you, Dave. I heard a lot of people will say this about Lane Kiffin. He hasn't proven he can beat elite competition back to back to back. I mean, even if I'm Georgia and Alabama, I'm going, okay, we had Auburn last year with the widest talent gap we've had in 42 years since Pat Dye took over January 2nd, 1981, and 37 players left during spring practice. I was there on the practice field with my father, April 1981, standing next to Governor Fob James. Practice was open then. I saw Bud Casey, the running back coach for Auburn, grab George Peoples, number 22 from Tampa, Florida, by the helmet and said, "This is how you block in the Southeastern Conference, son." I promise. I saw it. Grabbed me by his helmet. Boom! Blood went. And that was real. And I was like, my dad goes, kind of reminded me when I walked on for 3 weeks. He goes, I thought I was good, but I wasn't that good. He walked on. Yeah. And Erskine was at Auburn when my dad was there. Erskine Russell from Mobile. But here's the thing, Dave, I want to throw this. Lane Kiffin hasn't shown he can beat those elite teams week after week after week. If you're Georgia and Alabama, you're saying we had Auburn on their back on a ventilator, intubated last year, and they took us to the absolute wire. What ought to be sending chills up your spine if you're Auburn's rivals is for the last 3 years, and then last year Hugh Freeze comes in, and 4th and 31, my therapist and I were getting through it. It's a 7-step process. Doug is helping me. But I'm thinking, wow, and now you look at Freeze, what he's doing in recruiting, and you talk about the portal and all. Kind of break this down as a statistician and a dataologist. That's a new word we've come up on. A dataologist.
Well, I think Auburn is going to come back. I think that Jordan Hare is, with the exception of Baton Rouge of Tiger Stadium, I think Jordan Hare is the hardest place to play. I think it's voodoo land there, particularly in an Iron Bowl. I think that Auburn hosting Alabama, which they got to wait till year after next. Even if Alabama has a team and talent differential in the Iron Bowl, and when it's a Jordan Hare, I think Auburn has an inherent 5, 6, 7 point advantage.
Auburn Jesus.
Yeah. And I think
that's a Dougism.
Improved talent at Auburn, and I think they can extend that voodooism, particularly to the new schools, the Oklahomas, the Texas, et cetera. And I think Auburn's star is going to rise.
Oklahoma coming into Jordan Hare is going to be a zoo. It is going to be off the charts. Y'all's hospitality white tents right outside of Jordan Hare. It's going to be Mardi Gras. I'm telling you, that is. If I could go to one game outside of my LSU games this year, that's the game that early on is going to put this whole season. It's going to be like lighting a fuse on a Roman candle.
And Oklahoma caught a little, not much, but a little bit of a break, courtesy of the two flagship programs right now, Alabama and Georgia. Indisputably, I don't blame the TV moguls for wanting Alabama, Georgia as the night game. I assume that's 6:30 or 7 in T-Town. So it's probably a 2:30 or 3.
Auburn's tougher at 2:30, in my opinion.
Yeah,
always tougher in the afternoon.
I'll tell you that, but Jordan Hare, when it's after dark, is something else, as everybody knows. And Dave, to your point, for the last under the Saban era, with a couple of notable exceptions, 2010, 2013, Alabama's been the dominant program, and they're about to say fear the thumb, if my math is right, this coming season. And we got ourselves to blame for that.
Boy, did that come back around.
Tommy Tuberville. But it's amazing to me that my good Bama friends, who I'd be the first to say they're super high football IQ because they put the hours in and the study and they care about it. But they do not like playing at Jordan Hare. And I think it can filter down to your team that, hey, we think we're better. We're going there to win, but we really don't like playing in Jordan Hare.
There's just so much passion with Auburn fans. I mean, you see it on the show with Rob and Doug. I mean, that Bruce Pearl has been able to turn, that into Cameron Indoor in like 4 years. I mean, that's a story that's not told enough. I mean, that place is now, right up there with Cameron Indoor, and that's Coach K a long, long, long time to do that.
Well, and when it comes to the Iron Bowl, it's the residue of having to go to Birmingham every freaking year.
Yeah.
When that ended,
neutral Legion Field.
That was like 92 or 94, somewhere in there, if my memory's right. And again, I'm an outsider, but 92 or 94, when Bama had to go to Auburn for that first time, that had to be one of y'all's most memorable.
That was in 1989.
Coach Dowell, Frank, Coach Dowell say, if you got 4th and 1 at Legion Field, you better get 3 yards.
Hey, let me do a commercial. Let me do a commercial real quick. Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. You can get these hats out there. This is Oxford. That means Ole Miss. This in here is Starkville. They've got unbelievable inventory out there. The Turtle Box. That is the best music box. You guys love going to the lake, down to the beach on the Gulf of Mexico. It ain't the ocean, folks. You're a Yankee if you say that. They got the Turtle Box. You can buy those exclusively right there at Hewlett & Dunn. Those are the Anderson Bean boots. over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. They got Filson luggage, more duck heads than I've ever seen. They've got these SEC, ACC, and Big 12 shirts from Acres down south. They've got the Bama one. They got Auburn, the one called The Corner. They're working on all the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12. HewlettandDunn.com. They will ship anywhere. And Coolmore Logistics and Transportation, trucking company based in Memphis. Anything you need shipped, whether it be steel coils, lumber, bricks, cotton, seed, rice. And I was talking to Isaiah and Daryl Griffin yesterday, two guys here in Parkin that took care of Audrey's tire. The trucking business, man, hoppers, they can ship anything. They are Memphis-based with a global reach. And, of course, anything ever happens to your vehicle, it can be fixed at Matei's Garage in Memphis and Cordova Automotive. They've got 2 locations. Anything, car, truck, or SUV, open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I tell you what, Rumble Boxing Gym, how you fight is how you live, and the Vitamin Shop in Oxford and Olive Branch. We've got a lot of sponsors. Check them all out on our website, sidelines.live. And if you have a hunting dog or you're looking to buy a hunting dog, my man Chris Aiken up in Jonesboro, Arkansas, Web-Footed Kennels. He has the best system out there. I love this guy. Duck hunt with him. Known him almost 30 years. He's as good as it gets. And I'm going to tell y'all something, man. 64 days, wow, from the start of college football season. And it's going to be here before we know it. This has been one of our best roundtables. I think it's cool to throw some graphics up there, but y'all keep rolling.
Hey, Rob, I have a suggestion, and I'll help fund it. Although Dave's the multimillionaire, but
no, I'm not.
No, the Hewlett Dunn, the quality shirt, maybe hats, but those shirts, they need to do a personalized logo of Sidelines, and we will sport that on the show.
Hey, I tell you what I'll do.
We also need Maury Gaston modeling duck heads, given that he
they have
bought his first pair of duck heads in 1846.
There you go.
I thought it was 1979 out there. There's so many duck heads. Charles Hall and Raven and his wife Laura. That is the coolest store. They've got STS. They're the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast. And Memphis and Birmingham, I'm telling you, those cities are so alike. Birmingham's got the mountains. I mean, Vestavia, Mountain Brook, it's about as beautiful as it gets. It really is. But HewlettandDunn.com, they'll ship stuff anywhere. Brendan's got a cowboy hat, a Stetson that we had shipped to him, and he sports that thing. At 6'4", this sophomore from Ocala, Florida, Catholic high school, is a beast. I just got to say that. But look, Dave, we're going to get you some headsets. He said if Dave had headsets.
We got it. Yeah, we got it.
No, Dave, I'm going to tell all y'all something. Let's start some rapid fire here, okay? Because we go extra innings. There's Brendan.
There he is.
Hey.
Right. See, that is Wyoming Cowboys football.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't wear my damn headphones with it, so we have to cut some holes. Or we could just sew them in.
Yeah.
That would be
Cut a hole in it.
Yeah,
I mean, let's make it work here. I feel like I'm more like an Australian, but I don't know.
You gotta love
your headsets like this.
Yeah. You put them.
That's
on
not the first time. That's not the first time a Florida fan has wore a black hat. That's a little,
and not the last either.
Duffy, I got to tell you, I'm very superstitious when it comes to college football. And at my lake house, you may remember down near the dock, there's this little metal flagpole. It's not even 3 feet high. And it had a beautiful little square Auburn flag on it. Well, the sun is pretty tough at Lake Martin, and it's into its 3rd year. And that damn orange, that blue faded this LSU purple. And I said, get this thing off of there. I said, that is terrible luck. I put it on the barbecue grill and burned it in effigy. And
I think I tripped over that when we went into our 3rd 6-pack.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I got to say something. Dave Tompkins and all of y'all are connoisseurs of fine whiskey. I go into a liquor store up on Crowley's Ridge, which is, you're here in the Delta, and it pops up 700 feet out of nowhere. You know, it's like the Ridge Runners, they call them, up on the ridge. I go to Hilltop Liquors, home of the Happy Frog, who's on top of the building. And I bought Donnie Raines.
How much do you think Rob talks to the liquor guy at the place? How long do you think Rob's in there?
Quickly. It was a quick
What's your average time? What's your average time inside of the store, Rob?
5 minutes.
I got the over on that all day.
Well,
all day I got the over. We should.
But I went in there to get our man Donnie Raines, our neighbor, 8-year Marine, works for Mr. Brenner over here farming about 6,500 acres. Donnie and his wife Rob. Donnie can fix anything, and I got to go to Memphis right after the show, which I'm there every day. But Donnie, United States Marine, love this guy. And I said, Donnie, I got to get you a little thank you for fixing the John Deere. He can fix anything. I stopped by. I was going to get him a bottle of Jack Daniels. And I said, how about this Travelers, that Chris Stapleton, the country music singer, is pushing? Bought him a bottle of the Travelers, which is made by Buffalo Trace. Y'all know your bourbons. And I dropped it off at the house. And I said, last time, how is it? He goes, man, that stuff is great right out of the bottle, straight. So Chris Stapleton, I said, he ain't going to put his name, Dave Tompkins, on anything half-ass.
Oh, it's. I assume you guys have started the countdown to SEC Media Days. I mean, it's what is it? 2 weeks away.
Brendan and I are bunking together. Audrey's got to stay here and work. So Brendan and I got a room there. There's no rooms. And I tell you what, it's going to be crazy out there. And we've got Oakley McFerrin. He's going to be our intern out there. Oakley will be a freshman at Auburn this fall. He is on his way down to Auburn this weekend for a party. But we're going to be having a blast out there, and it is going to be so much fun. What's the over and under on the number of hook'em horns we're going to see when we walk in the lobby there? 1 million? Over or under? Who takes it?
Over.
It's got to be tough being an right now.
Yeah.
Well, to me, we know Lane's going to have some fun content out in Dallas, but there's going to be a surprise talking head that we don't know who it is yet. Who's going to, I think, just put on a tremendous show, and it. I mean, that thing should be live streamed, from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. It is. Okay, good. Yeah, because that's going to be some real must-watch TV.
Yeah, they don't even let. Well, I don't even think they let individual tripods in the interview rooms anymore. I think they just do a feed out and we record it outside the room, so because they live stream it. Most of the whole thing. They used to have a big giant room, and then it was Houston, NASA, and then they would usher. It was like a prize fight, and then they'd bring in Urban Meyer.
That was Saban's room. Everybody else was on a card table in the foyer.
I told you, me and Nikki had a little ride in the airport or in the elevator together.
And I think thanks to Texas, we'll give Texas some props. I think thanks to Texas, the SEC Media Days is going to become more, not this year, but increasingly a national product. And before you know it, there's SEC Media Days will be like in Las Vegas or something.
Yeah. It's going to be like a trick.
I grew up in Colorado where Texas, I had a lot of my friends were Texas people, that grew up Texas. And Big 12, I mean, I've been around the culture at least, most of my life. I mean, I did have a girlfriend at UT, and then I did have a girlfriend in College Station. So, I did experience both campuses, and a breath. And so, I gotta say, if there's any branding that's going to be done, it's going to be at Austin, because we all know what's going on down there in College Station.
Did you ever talk her into getting into one of them white jumpsuits?
I'm trying to get out of the jumpsuit, Frank. Out of the jumpsuit.
Doug Dean, I know you got a role, but unbelievable stuff as always. We'll do it again. We'll get another cool guest for us next week, but thank you, Doug. We're going to
let me tell Brendan real quick. Brendan, don't take it in a positive way, but I think it's going to be a good year for Florida, but good if you look at that damn schedule is 8-4. And the four losses that I've got, the 4 losses are the tough road games, and that should be forgivable. I would double down and keep Billy Napier and just keep recruiting.
There would be
doing really well.
Parade in Gainesville at 8-4.
Yeah.
At 8-4 would be he is the second coming. He'd be they make you a statue, because I don't think anyone's expecting 8-4.
Guess what? One of the wins is Ole Miss Rebels Gators are going to get them.
Wow.
Well, isn't Lane
Doug-
going to come? Lane's going to come in and kill it, or he's going to be Rocky 3 before he?
Yeah, I totally agree with Brendan. Either way, it's going to be entertaining.
And
It
look,
sure
you
is.
had
You got-
Missouri. You had
Thanks, Doug.
Missouri going, right, Doug?
Yeah, I got as if my opinion is worth a damn. But so the 14 playoff. I got Georgia, Tennessee, Rocky Top, Mizzou. They better not embarrass me with that. And then the fourth and final, it's hard to pick against Alabama the way they're loaded.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma will be the threat. I think that we get 4 teams in. Is that crazy?
Wow. No, it's
No,
not.
I think it's reasonable.
No, that's very reasonable.
Yeah.
See you guys. Y'all have a great
All right,
weekend.
Thank you, Doug.
Hey, man.
Hey, let me tell y'all something. Brent Venables at Oklahoma. What I track and I look at trends, just like moving averages in the stock market. I looked at, and everybody you should have. His first year at Oklahoma, they were 6-7. I think they lost their bowl game. Of their last 5 games, they lost 4 of them. Each of those 4 losses was by 3 points. And you consider that 22 players, key players on that roster, including future Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams, went to Southern Cal with Lincoln Riley, who was born on third base and thought he hit a triple when he got to Oklahoma. Okay, you're finding out he's like a lot of those kids that inherit money that have never worked. When he's having to run into a headwind at Southern Cal, he ain't much of a coach. And LSU is going to beat their ass in Las Vegas August 31st. I'll bet you a steamer pack of crystals on that one, Frank. I think you're going to agree with me.
If we got any semblance of a defense, I think you're right. And look, there's a history between LSU and USC going back many years. We've played them
1979.
we've played them about 6 times, I think. Yeah. And that 79 game was one of the greatest games in Tiger Stadium history. 17-12, I believe, was the final.
Yeah, Charles White and young Marcus Allen. Yes. Charlie McClendon, it was his swan song. It was his last season. And I'm telling you what, LSU fans that are probably in their 70s and above said that was probably one of the greatest nights in Tiger Stadium history. I listened to the LSU network, WWL AM 870, Hap Glotty, but it was John Ferguson, the Golden Pipes on the LSU
John Ferguson
network.
and Joe Dean.
It was loud at Tiger Stadium. I could hear it in Memphis as a young lad listening on the phonograph, But, I mean, look, what I love is we're going to wrap it up here in a couple of minutes. Doug went out on a limb picking the Gators to go 8-4. Here's what I know. I think you've got to remember, we've got a lot deposited in our memory banks, guys. And we got a lot of women that watch. I think 30% of our audience is women. But I'm going to tell you something. It's hard. And I'm not saying this because we're simulcast on the Buddy Martin Show and the Best Fridays in Football with Buddy Martin and Urban Meyer and SECU. We got four different shows we're simulcast on. 8 channels we're on. It's hard to bet against Florida. It's like if you've ever shot a cottonmouth and you went over and picked it up by the tail right after you shot it, bam, that thing will bite you. You got to blow the brain, blow the head off. What you got to do. I do it a lot on these rice fields around here. I'm just telling you, Dave.
It's your Saturday afternoon special story, kids.
Yes.
When shooting a cottonmouth, blow its brains out, or it's going to bite you.
But they're about as big around as a fire hose.
Pull your firearm out.
They got teeth on them. Yeah, but they got teeth on them. Yeah, but they're mean. They're aggressive. They'll chase you. But Dave and everybody, Brendan, it's hard to bet against Florida because I've got a lot of PTSD from games against Florida as an Auburn fan. Doug, Frank, it's hard. I can't buy the 2-10s and the 4-8 predictions. And I'm not saying that just to say it. It's just they're at 63% on the blue chip index. Billy Napier. Here's the question on Billy Napier, and we're about to. Does he want to be a coordinator? Does he want to be a head coach? Who could turn down the money? Does he have too many analysts whispering in his ear? Something tells me Florida's going to surprise on the upside. I don't know, but he better sure as hell beat UCF. That's the high. That's his best own. That's the crossroad. He doesn't beat UCF. He's got trouble. He beats because they're not going to stand for that.
I think though in state, I think if you've been around the game, I think you have a little respect for UCF.
I got respect for them. Yeah,
and I I think if you're, I mean, I'm in Ocala in between the two. I mean, obviously there's plenty of UCF people here, so honestly, nothing for me, Gator fan. Nothing could trump losing to Kentucky the first time, and seriously, that was the at home. In the swamp.
Yes.
That was really painful.
The ride down that escalator from the Bull Gator Club, if they lose to UCF, will not be a fun trip down.
Well, Dave Tompkins, they got Miami August 31st. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of Florida folks that say that the program with Napier is broken. And if it is, maybe it is. But my view on Florida has always been, it's not that hard ever to fix Florida. It doesn't take much to fix Florida. You get a good head coach. I mean, you're going to be able to recruit, and you're never more than 2 years away from being back to where you were, I believe.
Yeah. Fixing Florida is like getting an oil change.
Well, I think
now, Florida?
I think with the transfer portal, I think now you can do that, Dave. I think it would have been harder before developing talent. I think now you can go in and do just about anything with the transfer portal and enough money. So I look, nobody's done it in a decade. I mean, and we, but I think Florida's problem has always been chronically firing coaches. I mean,
right, who are you going to replace him with?
Yeah, how do you replace
the next
him?
Guy?
Because a lot of ways, Dan Mullen saw this whole transfer portal thing a little earlier and saw the opportunities, I think, than a lot of people want to give him credit for. He did shift early away from recruiting as much and placed a priority on the potential of a portal when the first year sort of came out. So I think, I think a lot of, and now we see this recruiting thing. Yeah, that's great, but what does it mean anymore? Right? It's like, oh, great. So you're right. You're coming to Florida,
Brendan,
right.
Could you ever see Urban Meyer going back?
Listen, this is a conversation I've literally asked Urban and Buddy. I didn't ask him, but Buddy asked him. We had our podcast that we do, Best Fridays in Football, on during the football season.
Wouldn't surprise me.
And he always says no. And Rob and I have had conversations, and this is pure speculation. I think Urban didn't like the legacy he left. I think that's why we saw a lot of Swamp Kings. I think he was excited to be a part of that, the Netflix documentary thing. And I think that, and he still does Gator gatherings and stuff up here. He still shows up and does events. He did a great one last year. He loves Gainesville. He has an attachment here. He's good friends with Spurrier. I think that him and Spurrier don't like the legacy that's being left there. And I do see that he would like to come back if the money was, right and everything was right. I mean, he still has a house in Sarasota.
Yeah.
I give him the money.
I've been saying for about a year and a half, right, Rob, since we probably met. I said, well, you watch and see. Urban Meyer will be the head coach of Florida one day.
I said if it's not after Billy, then I don't know when, because I think he would time out.
He's a young guy though. Well, hey, Dave Tompkins, 187 and 32. You look at, and I want to, guys, we need to do the show. Dave, let's go down to Spurrier's restaurant. I would love to do the show there. I don't know Steve Spurrier. Brendan's lucky. I mean, he knows a lot of people because he's got on the Buddy Martin glasses today. I love him. But you know what, Buddy, I saw Buddy for years on the Paul Feinbaum show. I was like, this guy is so cool. And he let me be on there the other night with Woody Page. That was a lot of fun.
All right, we can't sit here and talk about my dad.
Yeah, no,
I don't want to talk about but you want to talk about your dad? Let's talk. You guys want to talk about your dads? Let's have a chat about your father.
But it's a lot of fun. I would love to go down to Gainesville and do a show there because those fans down there, fun. They are as Southern as it gets. This is what people and Dave,
the ones around Gainesville.
Not the Gator fans around Gainesville are.
The ones around Gainesville.
The ones around Gainesville, not Gainesville.
The ones in Gainesville are from New York.
That's you get down. Hey, you get down to Naples. Dave, one of my buddies said he was at a hotel down around Sarasota or Bradenton about 8 years ago, and he said, "Man, I couldn't get the SEC network down in Naples at the hotel when I was down there for business, but I damn sure could get the Big Ten network. That was crazy.
The Big Ten network, and you've got a lot of Dayton Flyers, hats and jerseys and stuff in Naples and Sarasota.
But Florida's never been hardcore Southern. Florida's always been Florida.
Yeah.
Like Southern, but a little bit fun, a lot to drink, and let's party with hot chicks. I mean, come on, that's Florida. I mean,
what's not to like?
The Mason-Dixon line in Florida is like Lake City. If you're north of Lake City, it's Southern. Correct. If you're south of Lake City, it's either Midwest or Northeast.
Good point.
Ocala's Southern as it gets. I mean, I walked around my cowboy hat, and then no one even looked twice at me.
Those horse people.
Yeah,
I love nothing to me is better than
that's
LA.
You're right, Frank.
I'm an LA fan. Lower Alabama, the Florida Panhandle. And I grew up. I mean, I'm gonna tell you what. You go down to Pensacola and Panama City and Destin, they still have classic rock stations with DJs that sound like Tom Petty. I mean, it's a cool deal. But
if you're a belly button man, Gainesville is the place to be.
Oh yeah, listen. I'll tell you right now.
Half church, buddy.
Right now,
Jorts.
It is like Central Florida, like Jacksonville down to South Tampa. It's like they breed some of the best looking women, and Ocala. People joke about you come to Ocala. There's more like single gals walking around Ocala and beautiful. It's like there's a factory down the street.
Again, what's not to like? I mean, Dave Tompkins, look, unbelievable. This has been a blast today, man. College football roundtable. We're going to wrap it up. Just say we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. You can listen to all the negativity you want, but you'll get out of life what you accept. Tune out negativity. What you put in, you get out what you put in. So
you're going to shoot a coppermouth, blow its brains out.
Well, you got to take its head off with a hoe.
No,
whatever.
Blow
anyway,
its brains out. That's
Rob.
Blow its brains out. Get it right.
Yeah, okay.
And like the late great Donald Sutherland said, as Oddball in Kelly's Heroes, no more of those negative waves, Moriarty. No more of those negative waves.
Dave, you got the last word.
A copper-headed rattle moccasin. Be careful of those things.
That's a really D Mercer.
You know what?
Really
when I was vice president, I was a 5 handicap, so I don't want to hear about it.
That was the best I've ever seen. That was a good argument last night for
that's not an entree.
No. See you, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday. Bye-bye. Appreciate it. That was a blast.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Go see you guys. I couldn't get the thing frozen.
Dave's on his way to get some headsets.
Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, and go to Hewlett and Dunn to get this cool hat. All right, cool. Bye.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
So important to shop local and to buy American. For 60 years, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company has been on the historic Collierville Square, and we strive to sell made in the USA products when available. With over 7,000 pairs of Western boots and work boots in stock for men and women, come and see our huge selection of clothing, jeans, and accessories from top brands made in the USA. Please support local business and come shop